this is a bit of a different story, I think. From the peer group that we're with right now, these are earlier stage assets. They are more on the exploration side. There's been no historical mining with the assets we're going to talk about today, but also a different story because Excellon is a producing company. We have assets in Mexico, Idaho, and Germany as well. So I'm going to focus on Idaho, of course, but we are a little bit different than the group we're with today. But really great to be in Idaho. As Deb mentioned, we acquired Otis Gold in April of last year. So it's been tough getting down there, but we've put a great team together on the ground, and they're doing a very good job of advancing these projects during the interesting times we've seen over the past year. So we'll be making some forward-looking statements. This is on our website. You can check it out there. So quick overview on Excellon before we kind of get into our Idaho assets. So we operate the Platosa mine in Durango, Mexico. It's Mexico's highest grade silver producer, been in operation since 2005. So long history of mining, a lot of mining expertise in the company, great board and management that can really advance projects from grassroots level through financing, permitting, and development into production. We bought Otis Gold in April of last year, really for two reasons. The economics of the Kilgore project got us quite interested. At $1,800 gold, a $300 million NPV on the project, based on the PEA that was put out by Otis in August of 2019. That initially twigged our interest. But the real thing that got us our attention was, high-grade drill results, 4.2 grams over 95 meters, 5.4 grams over 31 meters. Holes that really hadn't been followed up on, sitting at the bottom part of the deposit and below, that really kind of chart the path to a much larger deposit in the area and right around the existing resources. So, our focus is very much on exploration. That's what we're going to talk about, how we chase that high grade at depth at Kilgore. And then we'll also talk about the Oakley project. Just in passing, we also have exploration projects in Silver City in Saxony, Germany, which if you're looking to invest, you should keep an eye on. They're very interesting. So we'll start with the capital structure. So only 32 million shares outstanding in Excellon right now. Like Integra, we moved up to the and Perpetua actually as well, moved up to the American exchanges back in last summer or so. So we moved up to the NYSE about 6 weeks or so after Integra. Great forum for, of course, a silver producer and then a company with assets in the US as well. I'd say we're getting our feet on that exchange over the past while, but we're really going to get a lot of value over that through that listing over the coming years. Working capital at the end of the year, 9.8 million net working capital. That's $8.5 million in cash and about 2.4 million in shares of Wallbridge Mining. A big shareholder here, Eric Sprott, at around 13% of the company, and also traded quite actively by two ETFs, the SILJ and the SIL. They've been pretty much constant buyers for the last 9 months or so. Coverage out of Cormark and PI. So the board and management of the company, I really want to focus on our team in Idaho, but great board of directors, Craig Lindsay and Roger Norwich joining us from Otis when we closed that transaction last April. And at that time, Mike Timmons also joining us, who is VP Corporate Development at Agnico for years, led an investment into Otis of about $5 million in 2017, and is now the CEO of Fury Gold Mines, which is doing loads of drilling in Quebec and northern Canada. Anna Kruger also joined our board in October of last year. She was previously our CFO and then went over to McEwen Mining, but tremendous experience, building mines, acquiring projects as CFO of Trevally from around 2010 to 2018 or so. On the board and management side, I've been with Excellon since 2012. And before that, Ben Pullinger and I were at a company called Plangio that spun off Detour Lake to Detour Gold in 2007. So great returns for our shareholders. We were working with Ingrid Hibbard there. And, we went over to West Africa, made a number of discoveries there. Ben went to Rox Gold in 2012, brought that to commercial production in 2016 with a great team there before joining us at Excellon. Alfred Colas, formerly of Barrick, joined us in October of last year. And then Paul Keller, our COO, was COO of Trevally for years. Just a great developer, operator of assets, and a key part of our team. We really want to focus on our team in Idaho. Phil Bandy joined us, I think in January of this year, the early days of the year. and formerly with the DEQ in Idaho and the Department of Agriculture. So very, very versed in the regulatory, sphere in the U.S. And a native of Idaho, native of Eagle, Idaho, actually, and was the mayor of Eagle for a period a few years ago. Then moved over as VP Operations or Executive Vice President of Operations at Idaho Kumo, moving that project forward before joining us early this year. Connor Messler joined us in June of last year, great master's geologist, has been on the ground really revisiting every single aspect of the Kilgore deposit in particular, and moving it forward, giving us a very different appreciation of exactly what we have there. So again, high level, we're in multiple jurisdictions here. Key thing though is that we do have a team at in each jurisdiction. Full team down in Mexico with our operation in Platosa and our exploration and milling project at Evolucion. Silver City, great team in Saxony. We're in an area that has a lot of academia. We can really draw on a lot of PhD students. And then building that team in Idaho, centered around Phil and Connor to move Kilgore and our Oakley project forward. Getting into Idaho was really a no-brainer. It's kind of the geological extension of Nevada in many respects. We saw the peer group that was developing there, these projects moving forward. So when we were looking to first move into gold to some degree, as we saw the gold market really starting to turn in the spring of 2019, Idaho was a natural fit for us. Great quality assets that were still very reasonable in terms of ounces in the ground, but a jurisdiction that was moving forward and advancing very, very well. So we'll get into the assets then. So our Kilgore project is in eastern Idaho, and then Oakley in southern Idaho, about 70, 80 kilometers east of Liberty Gold's Black Pine project. So we'll talk about Kilgore first. As I mentioned, very good NPV of this project, $300 million US. We bought Kilgore for less than $20 US per share, or $22 million, less than $20 US per ounce of gold in the ground, about $22 million in shares of Excellon. So the big thing here, though, these drill results that we see, 95 meters at 4.2 grams, 31 meters at 5.4, holes that really haven't been followed up on historically. And we think that one of the great opportunities on this project is really doing the structurally focused drilling, trying to find that high grade at depth, more diamond drilling to really, trace back where this gold is coming from to that mineralizing event at depth and find a much higher grade part of the deposit. So we'll look at that opportunity in a couple slides. First, looking at the PEA. So this PEA was put out by Otis Gold in August 2019. And again, that great NPV, very good IRR, good resilient project at lower gold prices as well, though we're never going to see low gold prices again, I hope. I think we all hope. When you look at it, though, 81 million in CapEx gets you 110,000 ounces a year over 5 years of mine life. We look at this PEA as a good foundation. From our perspective, we want more than 5 years of mine life, of course, and our exploration really runs along parallel tracks. The first, define 10 years of mine life at 100,000 plus ounces a year. And then we'd be looking towards a development decision subject to all the permitting necessary, of course. That's a nice project. The recoveries here are very good at over 80%. Recent studies suggest over 90% possible, and the strip ratio of only 1.1 to 1. So it's a great foundation project for us. But really, it's about looking at that exploration upside. And when we look at the deposit in section, you can see it sits in the middle on the side of the hillside there. This is an area that hasn't seen historical mining. We're not pushing back an old pit. We don't have any environmental reclamation liabilities that we need to work through. So it is a fresh project. The area that contains most of the deposit, about 0.5 gram gold, that about 1 million ounces or so, sits mostly at surface. It's kind of a steam heated zone. And one of the interesting things about this deposit is that you've got very good recoveries up here. And then you have the Aspen Formation, which really runs throughout the whole area, outcrops at its surface in a number of areas of the project, and then sweeps below the deposit itself. At the contact of the Aspen, there's a kind of carbonaceous layer that has played some tricks metallurgically historically, but it's actually a pretty defined zone that you can see clearly, get through, and get into good, clean arcosic sandstone where we see free gold sitting in that rock. So even when we see this high grade at depth, we think that the recoveries, once we separate out the metallurgical samples, are actually going to be quite good. So, from an exploration perspective, it's really drilling a long strike to expand the deposit, and then drilling into the hillside to step it back a little bit further. And we've got a drill hole here drilled in late 2019, 150 meters at ore grade, that really shows that the deposit is open into the hillside further. Right now, from a drilling perspective, we're going through the EA process with the U.S. Forest Service. Aim to have that EA kind of in the middle of this year before we start drilling, aiming for that in Q3. But let's focus on the high grade, because this is where we think there's an interesting future for the Kilgore project. Some new work, the very new slide that is just being put together right now. And you can see the kind of grades we get. High grade pretty much everywhere in every single rock unit. And this is something that hasn't been followed up on a lot. Historically, like many projects in the US, looking for near surface oxide material that could be, open pitted and heap leached, and focusing on that high grade is something that's really, started to happen more and more so over more recent years. So that's a key focus for us when we start drilling again here in Q3. And grades of up to 40, 50, 60 grams per ton gold that have only been followed up on very marginally, as the focus here historically was really on open pit material. We think based on the epithermal geology, where the heat is coming from, where the mineralization is coming from, that there's a good chance of underground mineralization or underground potential here as well in the future. From a regional perspective, the deposit and pretty much everything we've been speaking about so far is right here. That's where the mineral resource is. But 6 to 10 kilometers away on the east side of the project, we're seeing visible golden stream seds. We're seeing outcrop of the Aspen Formation with gold mineralization in it. So very interesting 7,000 hectare project to work on and explore over the coming years. So I'll go down to Oakley very briefly. And this project, I'd say, came along with the Otis transaction, 163,000 ounces at a half a gram gold, but actually very interesting geologically. It's just over from Liberty Gold's Black Pine project. Very similar geology, virtually right on the Nevada border. So you've got the extension of that Nevada geology coming into Idaho. Some good drill results there. And we've actually optioned it out to Centerra Gold, and they're spending up to $7 million over the next 6 years to earn it up to 70% on the project. Very excited about the geology. So we should be drilling here in the next month or so, hopefully sooner, just waiting for the weather to lift in that part of Idaho. The snows are melting. I think it's 70, 75 degrees down there now. So some very exciting drilling to come up at Oakley over the course of 2021. We're part of the Mining Association of Canada, also part of the Idaho Mining Association. Proud new member, looking forward to spending more time with Ben down in Boise. But the Mining Association of Canada, we've been a member since 2012, working to implement it towards sustainable mining protocols at our projects in Mexico, in particular, where we have the operation. Also part of the Mining Safety Roundtable, by far the smallest member of that group. I think every other member is well over $1 billion. But especially when we're talking about dealing with COVID at our operations in Mexico, and translating those experiences and expertise to Idaho and Germany as well, we've really drawn a lot from those groups, those global groups. So in Mexico in particular, constant temperature checks, testing, contact tracing, and we've managed to keep our people safe and healthy. In Idaho, a lot less people where we are, much smaller team. So we've done a good job of managing COVID over the past year. I don't see it being an issue with us going forward as we finally get through this period. So looking at Excellon, and we've got a lot of check marks here and bullets going forward, a lot related to other projects, of course. But if you are looking at investing in Excellon, it does give you a bit of exposure to a lot of opportunity, both that silver production, exposure to the silver price. We've seen over the past months how much torque that can have, only 32 million shares outstanding in Excellon, so very exposed to the silver price. We've got a project that's advancing very well in Kilgore, nice gold project with a good PEA on it, and then exploration and discovery potential, and resource growth potential on all of our projects. Platosa and Evolucion in Mexico, Kilgore and Oakley in Idaho, and of course our Silver City project in Saxony, Germany. So that's it for me. Again, we're in Idaho more of an exploration play versus some of the peer group that we're with right now, and especially Perpetua that's coming up right now. But great group to be with, and very excited to get working here much more thoroughly starting this year. So if there's any questions, I would love to get at them.
Let's hope my Q&A is better than my intro, Brendan.
Good luck.
Thanks. So the first question I have, I guess, is just on 2020 was a tough year for everyone in the industry. You managed to make a number of significant improvements at Platosa, as well as you added a lot of resources over the course of the year. I don't think that I saw the slide, your resource growth slide in this presentation. Do you have that?
I don't have it in this presentation, but it is in our normal deck. But in summary, we came into 2020 with about 14 million silver equivalent ounces. And then through the acquisition of Otis Gold and the publication of a resource on our Evolucion project, which was about 100 million ounces silver equivalent, we grew from 14 to 170 million silver equivalent ounces. And I think the key thing for an investor perspective is we went from about 0.6 silver equivalent ounces per share to 5.3 silver equivalent ounces per share. So our leverage to precious metals is very, very good. And certainly compared to our producing silver peers, mostly down in Mexico, we do have a tremendous amount of leverage to precious metals. So it's not in this deck, it's in our normal corporate deck. Not that this is an abnormal corporate deck, but do check it out because it just shows the value that's inherent in every share of Excellon right now.
Yeah, and I don't think the market's fully appreciated that resource growth yet. In terms of your strategy for 2021, obviously you're drilling at multiple assets. Can you remind us exactly what your planned drill programs are at each one of them? In terms of
we'll start around the mine, Platosa in Mexico. So we've got three kind of strategies there. It's grow Platosa, keep on growing the resource, keep on focused on that very high grade resource we have. It's find another Platosa, which we've got a great target about 11 kilometers to the northwest, and then find the source of Platosa, a big gold copper skarn at depth. So that's going to keep us busy down at Platosa throughout the year. At our Evolucion project, we're tinkering with that, I would say, this year. We got to prioritize a bit, so it's not a priority in 2021. At Kilgore, we've got, we'll put out news on our planned drill program as we get the EA in the middle of this year. But a very comprehensive drill program, one of the largest drill programs, I think, that the project has seen historically, and very excited to do that. The Oakley program right now is about 2,500 meters. It's 19 holes. We should be starting that in the coming weeks. And hopefully we ramp up that project significantly as we start to see what we get. At Silver City in Germany, aiming to be drilling there soon. And, the first program ever on that project in history was done last year. We have 8 holes out on it, hit high-grade silver on pretty much every hole, over 12 kilometers of strike, seeing a huge high-grade epithermal system there. So this year's program, probably more like 15,000 meters versus last year's 3,500 meters. And we've got at least 4 or 5 zones to follow up on and start to put, put tons and dimensionality onto them.
Okay, and is M&A going to be part of your strategy in this year?
It's always part of the strategy. You're always looking at things, but you can never predict when a deal comes through that makes sense. Otis was a no-brainer. Gold was $1,400. We announced that deal February 28th of last year, right before all hell broke loose, which was kind of unfortunate. But we did get those ounces for less than $20 an ounce in the ground. Great PEA, great geology on the Kilgore project. So it was a well-timed trade, and that's one of the things we always like to do, of course.
And then in terms of diversification of assets, so you've got projects in 3 different countries now. Will you continue to advance them all? Are you looking to dispose of assets? Like, how do you look at your portfolio as it stands?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as is there going to be M&A, right? Everything is a trade, and you've got these pieces on the board, and you move them around in the most effective way possible. So we're always looking at moving things around in a way that makes sense. You can take that for however it means.
I like your new Idaho gold logo.
It's a beauty. Yeah, it's great.
Anyway, I think that wraps things up for the Q&A session. Brendan, thanks again for coming back on our webinar. It's always nice to see you.